If you haven't seen it yet, yesterday a SpaceX Starship 36, during conducting a single-engine static fire test, which is static fire generally means you stay seated in a position, so you're not planning to take off. We actually called a static takeoff as a pilot, since obviously I'm a jet pilot, a takeoff where we will hold the brakes and we will advance the thrust fully forward to the toga position, take off or go around position, and we'll just hold the plane in position to static fire up the engines. So this is a common phrase in aviation. But yesterday, a single engine static fire test at the Massey outpost resulted in a rapid unscheduled disassembly. You can see that here in this footage. And you'll find that Elon Musk hasn't given us a sort of perspective on this yet. Obviously, this it does carry a little bit of egg on face POV. I am also, I want to be clear, like a SpaceX investor, so I'm not like trying to bag on SpaceX or whatever. But it's just something that it gives the media classic ammunition again to kind of complain. This is generally normal though. Usually, the reason we do these tests is to see, are we doing anything wrong? And what can we do to prevent these in the future when we have manned missions, right? This is obviously an unmanned static fire mission. SpaceX's official statement was that on Wednesday, June 18th at approximately 11 p.m. Central Time, the Starship was preparing for its 10th flight test and experienced a major anomaly while on the test stand at Starbase. A safety clear area around the site was maintained throughout the operation, and personnel are safe and accounted for. Starbase team is actively working to basically secure the test site and immediate surrounding area. There is no hazard to residents in the community, and we ask individuals not to approach the site while they are conducting their safing operations, which is a bizarre sort of phraseology they use, but that's what they use. Grok, somebody writes here, Grok, simply reframe this post in short, but do it as an old man with wisdom. Son, when SpaceX Starships met its fiery end on that Texas night, it wasn't just a metal loss. It wasn't just metal loss. Each burst of flames teaches us, like the scars on an old man's hands. Progress ain't smooth. It's forged in trials where failure whispers wisdom. No soul was harmed, thank the stars, but the path to the heavens demands patience. I actually love this. Like, I think it's totally true. It's like, you can't only have success in life, right? So Elon writes just a scratch, which is pretty classic. I love this. I also think it's funny, like, Elon is really like tripling down on this like drug test that he has, which, plenty of people who are doctors online are like, bro, this was not a supervised test. Like, a woman took the sample, which is not who would supervise a test. It's also a sample that you knew was coming, and you could dilute your sample by drinking a lot of water or by knowing that it's coming and then just being clean for something. I don't think, honestly, any investor, like as a VC investor in SpaceX, I don't really care. Elon is Elon, and it doesn't matter to me. So whatever. People will make a big deal about the drug use, but I figure I may as well at least mention it. But I want to jump into Scott's channel here because he posted his thoughts on this, and so I want to give some time to listen in. So we're going to go about 4:20-ish into the vid, and let's listen in here.
See from this angle is that initially this starts out as spray of like cryogens, condensates coming out of the nose cone area, right?
Yeah.
It's not the propellant tanks. Now, on the Starship...
Yeah, this could be a sealant issue, too. Honestly, you get such variations of temperature. And I don't know. This is just speculation. But let's see what the Texas weather is really quick. I'm just going to look. Yeah, you're running between... today it looks like it might be a little rainy in parts of Texas. You're typically running in the 90s to 100s, and you can cool down pretty rapidly at night. And sometimes, just like we've had with NASA explosions before, I think it was the Discovery, you really had just one O-ring failure could lead to a catastrophic explosion like this. It is terrible.
V2, you have the all-liquid oxygen tank at the bottom. Then you have the liquid methane tank in front of that, and then above that you have the space where you've got the the Pez dispenser. But more importantly, as we go up the side, we also have the two header tanks. Now, in the V2 Starships, we believe we have a methane and an oxygen tank in the nose, and then there's a downcomer which runs along the windward side. Now that windward side, that is where the heat shield is. And we see that the spacecraft is splitting along that area. So I'm really feeling that this failure is related to the header tanks, or at least that is how we're manifesting. Now,
this is an interesting point. It's basically saying like the seal under the seal, like think about like a tin can. Tin can may not be the perfect example because it's rolled, but it's likely that the way these starships are assembled are sort of almost like a half of a tin can and then put together, and then under that heat shielding you have a seam, and it seems like there may have been some kind of abnormal pressurization upon ignition inside of the actual canister that then led to that sort of rupturing of the canister or the fuel tanks itself, then leading to the rupturing of the outside. Unclear, obviously, what came first. We'll find out over time, but let's keep listening because I think he's got a good perspective.
Actually gets this particular failure, I'm not sure. This could well be a
kind of like the seam right here. It's a perfect example.
Design deficiency in the spacecraft, or it could be there was a design deficiency in their testing procedures which led to something going wrong, led to a line being, say, overpressured, rupturing, and then failing. We will find out more in coming days. But anyway, I believe this failure starts in the forward section with the header tanks. And initially, what we're seeing is this sort of collapsing downwards. And I think probably what happens is we have the oxygen tank spilling hardware down, and something falls down, ruptures the methane tank, you get mixing, and that's when the ignition starts. Now, as this starts to fail, we also do see what looks like a sort of a wave, shock wave, or whatever, some sort of...
Oh, Elon did, it looks like, make a mention that it looks like there may have been a COPV failure at below rated pressure. Let's take a look at this. Here's a SpaceX lounge right here. Preliminary data suggests that a nitrogen COPV in the payload bay failed below its proof pressure. If further investigation confirms that is what happened, it is the first time ever for this design. Let's just see what some folks are talking about here. Here are some folks who say, "Hey, who manufactures these? Is it SpaceX?" Let's see here. Debris washes it. Some have washed up in beaches. Okay, let's take a look at some of these. And SpaceX debris washed up. How interesting. Debris washes up on shore. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the things as well that a lot of people talk about is Elon's relationship with the FAA and sort of the allowance to like go unexpectedly blow these things up over the Gulf of Mexico is pretty dang impressive. But just so you know, what you're looking at is these are called composite overwrapped pressure vessels. They're basically, they're almost like, I feel like oxygen tanks that you could go diving with or whatever, but they're designed to hold fluid under pressure, usually some form of fiber composite. Makes you wonder if there's some like carbon fiber related issue, because you can use carbon and Kevlar on these, and I always get nervous now when I hear carbon fiber after obviously the Titan, though this is potentially different. But then again, maybe not, because sometimes these carbon related tanks, they get damaged and then people don't notice the damage, right? Or like somebody drops one of these. It's entirely possible one of these was dropped and then that's what ruptured, leading to some sort of internal then explosion and then a tearing of obviously the outside along a seam and then out of the heat panels. So these pressure vessels, COPV, again, composite overwrapped pressure vessels. Let's see here. I want to see who really manufactures these. They're manufactured by winding resin-impregnated high tensile strength fiber tape directly onto a cylindrical metallic liner. Fine. Mind you, by the way, the Cirrus aircraft are made out of carbon fiber, which is makes them very light. Pressure-containing vessels. Yeah, we know that. And failures. Let's see here. A COPV can be subject to complex modes of failure. In 2016, a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket exploded on the pad due to a failure of a COPV inside the liquid oxygen tank. So inside of the liquid oxygen tank, you had one of these smaller tanks fail in 2016 on a Falcon 9 rocket. The failure resulted from the accumulation of frozen solid oxygen between the COPV's aluminum liner and composite overwrap in a void or buckle. Yeah, so some kind of actual like fracture or fissure in one of these tanks. These tanks potentially seem to be a little less reliable, given that this has happened in the past. So that's interesting. It makes you wonder what kind of verifications or inspections you can conduct on these. Because one of the problems with carbon fibers, if it's used in these tanks, is it's really hard to identify if they're actually damaged. And they're designed to hold, fluid or gas or whatever at a high pressure. So it's not uncommon for these to fail. Let's keep listening here.
It's displacement happening that shows up at the common bulkhead between the fuel and the oxidizer tank. And that very quickly then fails and we get more mixing. Now, during the sort of breakdown of everything, the whole vehicle then begins to collapse. And as it falls over, I think the methane tank, the main methane tank, remains largely unmixed because at this point it didn't have a huge amount of liquid in it. But as it falls over, eventually it hits the ground, spills, we get a large amount of mixing, and that's where you get the secondary fireball, which then propagates up into the mushroom cloud. Now, if you step through these videos in the original form, you can also see various recognizable pieces of debris flying around. You definitely see a few COPVs flying away. We see...
Yeah, I'm going to jump now for a moment since I think we've got sort of an initial impression from him. We've got some initial impressions regarding the COPVs. But I want you to take a look at this. This is a 2021 article where they actually talk about these pressure vessels. And they remain a challenge for engineers to unravel. Now, keep in mind, this is from 2021, but it is a NASA blog piece, which I think is very interesting. These vessels are ubiquitous for NASA. They are found on launch vehicles and spacecraft. They are critical containers and suppliers of propellants and elements required for life support. We've invested a significant amount of time and resources to better understand how they work and, more importantly, how they can fail. Because should they fail, the results could be catastrophic. Well, we just saw that. We saw that in Falcon 9 in 2016. We saw that today, and last night. As NASA's profile changes to more deep space missions, in particular deep space human missions, reliability is paramount. Well, of course. COPV behavior remains difficult to understand. I'm telling you, it's the composite the carbon fiber. It's a complex stress state that exists between the liner and its overwrap and the adhesive that holds it together. We need to and adhesive, by the way, can fail when you get temperature, like rapid expansion, differentials in pressure. Hot day, cold night, adhesives can wear away over time. We need to understand not only the manufacturing process, but the material compatibility. Fine. Today, in many cases, COPVs are blown down systems. Their pressure is reduced with use. Okay. COPVs used on launch vehicles leave the ground at their highest pressure. So that is your most stressful point. And as their contents are depleted, the pressure drops. This makes sense. Sort of just like when you go diving, right? Their use environment is often measured in minutes. With going back to the moon and Mars, we have situations where COPVs might sit at a lunar base or in a Mars ascent vehicle or orbital platform like a gateway. There will be long use measurements. Fine. Okay. We've got tests and analysis for future. What challenges? Okay, so they're designed to hold liquids and gases under pressures. They have composite overwraps. They're made from aluminum, steel, elastomers, plastics, composite overwraps, a mix of fibers, resins. It's just a mix of like everything, okay? And they go through a process called autofrettage where the tank is subject to high pressure to compress the inner surfaces, making them less susceptible to pressures later on. Right, so you overpress the inside to push together the adhesives on the outside. That makes sense. Okay. The auto fret edge is where many questions begin. Do auto fret edges affect the state of stress in the liner? Was there a crack and will it propagate? Right, did somebody drop it? And can you even see that, right? Could be something as simple as somebody dropping it, like the UPS delivery guy. Sorry, I'm not trying to poop on UPS and just saying, here you go. There's probably more safety around how they package these. But anyway, the complexity of these is deceptive and bleeds into all failure modes associated with these tanks. And there are failure modes we still don't fully understand. See, this sucks. See, because people are going to bag on SpaceX. But here's NASA in 2021 telling you, we use components that we still don't fully understand. That's kind of bad if you think about it, right? It's kind of not good. So let's see here. Three-dimensional state of stress changes, COPV failures can be difficult to predict or understand. See, this makes me nervous. It's these suck. And when they fail, it will take your spacecraft down because there's so much stored energy. But we kind of need them, but we don't fully understand them yet. Bro, don't put me on one of these spacecraft, Jeez, man. So to help advance COPV technology and be better prepared for long-term space travel, they've been actively engaged at NASA to develop state-of-the-art non-destructive evaluation techniques. They've got a working group. They do stress test rupture, whatever. These cracks in the liners can lead them to rupture, blah, blah, blah. So basically, a core element of the propulsion systems or gaseous storage systems at most critical pressure loads at the time of takeoff are a piece of technology, a piece of equipment that frankly we just don't fully understand yet. Here are pieces of them in prior rapid unscheduled disassemblies. Not great, because it's almost not fair to SpaceX, right? Because it's people blame SpaceX, and it's well, not even NASA understands why these suckers fail. So kind of sucks, and worth sort of paying attention to a little bit. The COPV failures, I'm going to go back for a moment to the Reddit here, just to see if they have anything extra that's interesting on this. Let's see here. They get tested before they get shipped, right? But this is also by design that they overpressurize them on the inside. But again, how do you identify if somebody dropped it? That's my biggest concern. How do you identify if the adhesives that are used are properly fitted to where they won't fail? Static fire means the ship wasn't moving. Exactly, we already explained that. Strut failure is therefore unlikely, says somebody. Maybe there was a valve failure, maybe. This is just other speculation. I mean, everything we're doing is speculating, but I think if you haven't learned about these COPVs yet, it is a very interesting thing. Good news, we found a whole new failure point before it caused a flight issue. Well, not necessarily. So this is the very optimistic take, and I respect that, because the optimistic take is, look, nobody was on the aircraft. We have successfully destroyed another aircraft that we can now learn from. This is true. I give credence where credit is due. I respect that. Yes, we have found another failure. However, if the failure is COPVs suck, just like they did when the Falcon 9 exploded in 2016, and in 2021, NASA's telling us, yeah, we still don't really fully understand these, and we kind of just cross our fingers that they won't blow up, then we're not actually really learning anything. Then maybe what we really need is a better alternative. Let's just Google better alternative to COPV in spaceflight. Because to me, at least the limited research that we've done on them and talked about in this video, because I'm not trying to come across as knowing everything here. Obviously, there'll be a full investigation here, and there's a lot that we could look at here. It kind of makes you wonder, is there a better way to do this? Take a look at this. This looks like straight up carbon fiber, just like the Titan. Dawn Aerospace, partner on smart COPV. Okay, so now we're gonna have smart COPVs because the old ones suck. So maybe they have AI in them or something. Dawn continues to expand its satellite propulsion system, offerings for smart COPVs with development contracts, blah, blah, blah. The goal is to develop lightweight, smart composite overwrap pressure vessels for nitrous-based propulsion technology. Fine. COPVs are the next logical step in expanding our product offering. Well, it's their version, basically, of these COPVs. Propellants are traditionally stored in metal tanks in orbit, but size is constrained due to the weight of metals. COPVs offer a lightweight structure with high tensile strength, making them withstand the harsh conditions of space, including extreme temperatures and radiation. So basically, we use these smaller tanks because the big metal ones are just too darn heavy. So you use lightweight ones, which, oh wow, wrapped in carbon fiber and epoxy. Fantastic. Exactly the problem with carbon fiber is like, if that thing falls, it's hard to know that it was actually damaged. You have to like microscopically see that it's damaged and now compromised, and it doesn't get better. Carbon fiber over time gets worse and worse and worse. Take a look at this. Using smart sensors in the process accelerates the development and gives much deeper insight into the laminate status, hence the quality of the vessel during testing and production. So basically, they're telling me it's only smart during the production. See, but what you need is like a smart COPV that can tell you it's compromised before takeoff. So some work to do. It seems like this is a very common issue here. Developing ground testing fiber optic strain system. Understanding structural stress and strain is important in designing the COPVs. Alternatives to this method include costly but powerful progressive failure analysis software packages and digital imaging correlation measurement systems. Basically scanning all of your tanks all the time, I imagine, is what it would take. Temperature indicating paint will support monitoring liner temperatures. Interesting. This for testing purposes is great. So it looks like this is a pretty large issue that a lot of folks are still working on. And it doesn't actually seem like there's a big solution here, which would be the worst case scenario for SpaceX, is that there is not a solution yet for these types of failures. I guess we'll see.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.